Good evening, everybody. And if you're just joining us, you're tuning in live, you're listening to the Angel Rock on uprntalkradio.com. I'm your host, Lorilei Potvin. Just to remind you before we get started, we're on StreamYard, so we're streaming to a lot more video places, and you can watch the show, you can participate in the show. There's chat rooms there. We get most of the chat here, and I can involve you in part of the show if you've got questions or comments. And I like to do that. I hate when I go to a live and it's not a really active chat, meaning there's not a million, comments flying by, but, and you're there and nobody acknowledges you. So I want you to feel like you're part of our family, that you're here. If you're returning to the Angel Rock, thank you. And if you've never been here before, a little bit about myself and the show. I am a Canadian psychic medium. I'm also an Akashic Records practitioner, a crystal Reiki energy healer, spiritual teacher and mentor, and I'm also a nurse. Now, the Angel Rock, I was talking with my friend Michael Roser, who's been on here before. We were saying we've got to have a better word than the paranormal. So I'm going to try out supernatural. So I deal with anything within the supernatural realm, as well as, a power of positivity, chakras, energy work, messages from spirit, you name it. And it always ends up on a positive note. And the guests that I have on, the show is always all about them. And it's about the incredible work that they're doing that helps make a positive change for humanity. And tonight I have an incredible guest for you. I'm going to read her bio, but I will introduce her. Her name is Carol Noonan, and she's doing us a huge favor because it's 1:00 in the morning over in the UK right now. She also goes by Soma ARah. We're going to talk about that name. She's a Pleiadian warrior of the heart, a channel for the Pleiadian since childhood, Pleiadian starseed, Pleiadian hybrid, Pleiadian channel UFO abductee, contactee, and a UFO experiencer. She's internationally renowned for master psychic, medium, shamanic practitioner, Reiki master, healer, visionary. I could go on and on, but before I do introduce her formally, I also want to let you know I have my PIC, or partner in crime, my fellow co-host, my bestie, Seraphine Hurley. We do Tripping the Void on Tuesday nights. So ladies, welcome.
Yay.
Welcome, Carol. Are you there? I hope you're not. Oh, you're still there. Good. We're moving. I was like, oh my gosh.
I'm still here. Hi, thank you, Lorilei. It's great to be here. Very much looking forward to this.
Oh, sorry?
I'm very much looking forward to this.
So am I, and I'll let you know off the bat, and most people that follow our show know this. I don't know if it's up here in Canada or what, I have a delay. So if I end up speaking over you accidentally, I apologize, because it'll seem like there's a pause. You're doing us a huge favor tonight. Thank you, because it's 1:00 in the morning over there. So thank you. So go ahead.
I know, I was just going to say you're very welcome. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad to have you. Do you want to give a shout out also to Joe Montaldo, who's the owner of UPRN? He also, I don't know how he does this. I said this off air. He runs a construction business all day long, and he produces all our shows. He makes my job easy. I just get to sit here and talk. So thank you, Joe. So Carol, I got to ask you, this has been I did listen to a podcast that you did over in the UK. It was excellent. Gave me a few ideas to talk about tonight. You're also an author too, I want to add, by the way. We're going to talk about that. How did you get the name, and I hope I'm saying it right, Soma ARah?
I got the name during the last year, during COVID. I used to go out a lot last year and meditate in the garden.
Right.
And I went out, I'm a tree hugger. So I was hugging a tree. And as soon as I went up to the tree, I heard the name Soma. And then I came upstairs and I Googled it. And then I was also given the name ARah. So then I Googled that as well. And that was while I was Googling Soma, I was given the name ARah. So that's how I got the name, Soma ARah.
Are you comfortable sharing what it means?
Yeah, Soma means an elixir, a sacred Indian drink. And ARah is to arise, to rise up.
I love it. What I wanted to, I guess where I always start with people is, now, one thing I'm going to add, I'm a little bit familiar, but I know our listeners aren't now that I've listened to your podcast. You've had a very abusive, traumatic, difficult childhood, as I find many of us that are light workers, star seeds, whatever you want to call them, we seem to have these very difficult childhoods. But this was kind of a jumping off point for you, was it not, for how all this started? Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah. It was, I describe it as being born into hell. It could have been a lot worse, Lorilei, but it really was hell. You know, I was born into a lot of poverty, an alcoholic mum, a very abusive, dysfunctional family, a lot of sexual abuse, bullied at school. I was also raped as well when I was very young. I was 13 when I was raped and became pregnant. And so everything all rolled into one, you know, everything. But I was 12 years old and I really was done. I really wanted out. And I'd just been abused by my stepfather, who was living with us in our household, because he'd already married my mum at this point. And I was really just done. I wanted out. I was deciding on taking tablets. And I went to lay on my bed. And I didn't even have a bed at the time. I just had a mattress. But I was actually okay with that. And I was sobbing my heart out, really retching. I was crying so much, I was shaking. And the next thing I knew, I was in the corner of my room looking down on my body. And I went through a tunnel of white light and I met up with Jesus, who took me on a very long journey for about 3 or 4 hours and showed me my karma, my situation. And when he understood that I got it, that I understood it, then he showed me the bigger picture for humanity. And when I came back, I was totally blissful for about 3 or 4 weeks, and that gradually ebbed away. But that really was the start of my awakening. And I never told anyone about that until 2004. And I just began to tell friends. I've never actually told my family about it, or my mum, or, you know, or my brother. But I have told friends over the years. But it was just such a profound experience at such a young age that it stopped me from committing suicide, because I wouldn't be here if it hadn't have been for that, you know. But I always had spirit around me. You know, I did have, there were positive times in my childhood to do with spirit and my guides and loved ones, and especially my granddad. And also the Pleiadians. And I didn't realize who they were when I was that age.
Right.
I just used to think of them as my guides. But I did have other experiences where I would leave my body and I would connect with the Pleiadians as a young age. But, you know, like I said, I didn't know who they were. I just thought they were my guides. Right. So it wasn't until a few years back now that I became aware that it was the Pleiadians.
So Sarah, feel free to jump in at any time if you have any questions or anything like that. I don't want her to forget. She's usually on camera. But like I said,
I will be tomorrow.
What's that, Sarah?
I will be tomorrow. How did you know that it was the Pleiadians?
Thank you, Sarah. I was just going to ask that. I knew.
Thank you, Spirit Guide.
We have a Nagy Spirit Guide that we share. We're best friends. It happened within 15 seconds. And she just took the words out of my mouth. Thank you. Before you answer that, I do want to give a shout out to Zach Man. He's in the chat room. He's a regular supporter of our show. So go ahead, Carol. Sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's a great question. And it's not an easy one, not a quick one to answer, but so it's been quite a long story with me, and it's been a long process and lots of unfolding for me, and I'm still unfolding and learning more about it all the time. But basically, I was sent an email by a guy called Joshua Shapiro, who I didn't know at the time. And I just thought he was a bit crazy. And I just left London. I just moved into a house on the beach in rural Ireland, which was beautiful. And I was sent an email. I'd already started to channel right at this point. And then I moved into the house in Ireland, and someone sent me an email, and I just thought he was a bit crazy at first. And he was called Joshua Shapiro. He's quite well known in America. He does the crystal skulls. And I soon realized that he wasn't crazy at all, and that he was really in tune. And he said to me in the email that we should work together. He was given my name by the ethers, and that we should work together. And I think he may have mentioned the Pleiadians in the email. I'm not sure. But as soon as he contacted me, I started to channel the Pleiadians. And when they turned up, it was Ashtar was behind me, center, but slightly to my left. He told me his name was Ashtar, and he was the Pleiadian. I didn't know anything about Ashtar at the time. I just knew it was Ashtar. And so I went on from there, and then I began to channel them and take dictation. And then I left that house, and then I moved into Westport, and then I moved into Galway, and then I began doing shamanic courses in Ireland with a guy called, what's his name? Paul O'Halloran. Really amazing guy. And I began to do shamanic journeys.
Right.
And I began to have shamanic journeys where we were doing things like ayahuasca and sacred herbs, and I was doing these shamanic journeys, and I was going back to my childhood. And I remember one of the weekends where we were doing the shamanic journeys, we were sat round in a group on all different various chairs. Some of them were couches, and some of them were straight, dining room chairs, and some were like slouchy chairs. And I was in this straight dining room chair with a wooden dining room chair with a tall back. And I remember sat there, and as soon as I sat down and closed my eyes to meditate, because we were all doing the same thing, straight away I went back to a childhood memory of my first conscious memory where I actually was being abused sexually. And I had a guy lying on top of me who was my mum's boyfriend at the time, called Bill. And I was a skinny little thing. I was underfed and undernourished, to the point my mum actually took me to the doctor because I couldn't use the toilet properly. And he looked at her, and he looked at me, and then he looked back at her, and he said, "You need to feed her," in this very kind of authoritarian voice. And she didn't know what to do. But anyway, so I was this skinny little thing, and I had this big fat guy lying on top of me who was huge, and I couldn't breathe. I literally couldn't breathe. And I left my body and connected to the Pleiadians. Now, I'd always remembered that.
Let me stop you there for a sec. Okay, so like you said, you were little when you connected. Just so I can make this clear for our listeners. So when you connected as a child, like now, like you say, you were at this meditation, you went back to your childhood. What did you experience? Like, did this feel familiar? What did you see them? Like, how did you make that connection? Like Sarah said, like that you knew it was the Pleiadians. Like, did they say, "We've been here your whole life," or "We've been taking you," or were they the ones that abducted you? Or
well, it's been a process for me to understand and go back in the shamanic journeys, go back to my childhood. But I have seen them. I know their energy. They've told me that I'm not from here, that I'm Pleiadian. They've shown me that I've had past lives where I'm from there, and I've come here as a starseed, like a lot of us have, to help to raise humanity's awareness. But with the Pleiadians, I guess I'm so I don't know what the word is.
Familiar with
Yeah.
the energy. So I
Yeah.
guess what I'm asking you, so we've got small Carol, right? And you're really in a horrific situation, to the point, very lucky actually, that you don't even have developed something like multiple personality disorder. It's called dissociative personality disorder. But, because a lot of people that experience that kind of thing, sometimes that can happen, especially when you left your body. So you must have, like, did you just sort of, when you left your body, do you maybe not remember? It just felt like comfortable, familiar to you? Or I guess that's what I'm trying to make the connection for our listeners, so that they realize that, yes, you definitely connected, but how did you know? And again, I'm not trying to grill you. I hope you don't think that, love. It's
No,
just
that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's great questions. And I think it is. I think you're right. I think we do need to be cautious with people that say they are psychic or medium or channels,
Mm-hmm.
because within the spiritual field, not everyone is who they say they are.
Absolutely.
And I'm still learning that lesson, and I do get shaken every now and again when someone says that they are these labels, and then I find out that they're not. I get really upset, because I believe people to be truthful and honest with me. And I do have I do have a lot of integrity. So, but with the Pleiadians, so I have a lot of blocked memories as a child.
I got you. That's what I'm wondering. So I didn't want to think that I put you on the spot. Coming from a nursing background and working with children as well too, and again, I really connected with your story, because there was a lot of similarities that I'd gone through as well as a child. So I was wondering, and if that had happened. It's almost like a repressed memory, right? And like you said, you're still unpacking it now. So that's why I was wondering, like, did you know you were in a safe space? Or, like when you first connected as an adult, let's go there then, with the Pleiadians, what did it feel like? Was it comfortable, familiar? Like you said, you saw them. A lot of people are probably wondering, what do they look like? And what's a star seed?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing when they first when I first felt their energy around me. They're extremely loving, like times 100. When I first saw them, they were behind me, was Ashtar behind me, and I got a sense of other Pleiadians behind him, but he was the first
So
person.
who's Ashtar? I know you know who he is. As soon as you mentioned his name, I knew who he was. I've actually had experience. Like I said, we've got a lot of similarities as I was listening to your story. Yeah. Actually, Sarah's had some experiences as well. But a lot of people won't know who is Ashtar, and who are these Pleiadians? Because we're hearing about them like sort of out throughout the inner circles right now, especially during this very past year. Seen a lot more UFO experiencers. I know I've seen specifically the Pleiadians mentioned a lot. So who are they? Do you know like where they come from? Why are they here to help humanity? And then what do they look like? So I get a million questions.
That's okay. That's some great questions. So when I saw them, they're very tall, blonde, blue-eyed, very angular features. They have, when I see them, they have a blue energy around them. Blue energy around them. They come in with a lot of love.
Love is an understatement, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, Lorilei. I mean, it's love times 100. And sometimes when I feel that energy, it makes me cry, because it's so all encompassing. It's beyond overwhelming. It's just all encompassing. So yeah, sorry, you've got so many questions. I don't know where.
Okay, so let's go back to Ashtar, because
I'm sorry. Can I interrupt? I'm sorry, Laura.
Go ahead, Sarah.
When you say Ishtar, how do you describe Ishtar?
Tall, blonde, blue-eyed, straight hair, very angular features, comes in with a lot of love.
Who is Ishtar?
Ashtar commander. I would say, in my understanding, I would say that he was the head of the Pleiadians, kind of in charge or at the front of the Pleiadians. I guess, for want of a better word, I guess you would say I mean, I don't like using the word leader, but I see him as being the leader of the Pleiadians because he always seems to be at the front.
I have a question from the chat for you that I thought was a great question from Zach. He says, what type of government do the Pleiadians have by human interpretations?
I don't actually know the answer to that.
Okay.
I mean, I do. I think integrity is very important, especially when you're a channel for anyone, whoever it is. So I always answer honestly. If I don't know something, I'll say I don't know.
I appreciate that. I really do. Like, you don't, and that's what this is, just a discussion here for you to share your experiences. And the one thing that I found intriguing from your interview that I listened to was you had said when you connected with Ashtar, that was when you were by the beach. So you had like no internet, you had nothing like that. And I'd love for you to explain about that.
Yeah, well, I did have internet. I did have internet. Yeah, I was rural. I was about a minute from the beach. I was living in Lewisburg in Mayo, the west coast of Ireland, which is quite near where High Brazil. I don't know if you've heard of High Brazil.
Sarah might. Sarah lived over in Europe and I think in the UK, right, Sarah? I think she's muted. So
yeah, I mute myself just for your own safety.
Yeah.
Yes, I've lived abroad for many, many, many years.
So Sarah might understand where you're explaining, but I've never been over to the UK myself. One day, maybe. So go ahead, Carol. So
okay, so I was rural. I was about 20 minutes from the local village, and a minute from the beach. But I did have internet. I had a huge garden and was growing a lot of.
But I think what I'm getting at is that you had said, though, I think if please correct me if I'm wrong, that if you don't experience it, you don't believe it. So it was like you hadn't looked up Ashtar, and that's what I'm trying to get at here. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't. I've always been very cautious around that because I don't want. So when I wrote my first book, The Pleiadian Child, I was very, very strict with myself that I wasn't going to Google or read any information about the Pleiadians or other channels or Google anything or read anything. There was a couple of times I did Google things. And I think that was how they looked. Because I wanted clarity. I wanted to know that what I was doing was accurate and genuine and not coming from my own mind. But so I did Google the images, and that's exactly what they looked like. The blonde, blue-eyed.
Okay.
So I was, I didn't start reading any other Pleiadian channels until I'd actually finished my book. And then I began reading Barbara Marciniak. And in one of her books, and I actually wrote it in my book, and then I finished my book, and then I read her book, where she says exactly the same thing as I said in my book. Because I used to believe for years, I used to have a saying in my mind that I would just say again and again, kind of to myself. I would, I was in the thought process of believing, who in their right mind is going to believe that I am channeling the Pleiadians? This little poverty-stricken girl from Hackney in London,
right?
I questioned it big time, and it was actually my shaman, Paul O'Halloran, that clarified it for me, really, and those shamanic experiences, because he could also feel the Pleiadian energy around me. So I really love him for that, you know?
Right.
Excuse me. So, Miss Soma, how do you know the names of these people and things like that? How do you into the existences? Do they give you the names? Do they like imprint the names in you? How does that happen?
The names of the Pleiadians.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've only been given the name Ashtar.
Okay.
But I do get a sense of others around behind him. So I've only been given the name Ashtar. I was also given the name Ella once, which I don't often share publicly. And I'm not sure if she was Pleiadian or not, because she turned up in my bedroom one day when I was living in this house in Lewisburg, and she had darker skin. She had like Indian skin, and she had dark hair, a bit like yours, Lorilei.
Okay.
And she was very much a warrior. And she said she turned up in my room when I was in between being asleep and awake, and she said, "Hi, hello, my name's Ella, and we haven't met before."
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not 100% sure if she was Pleiadian or not, because she had Indian type skin.
Mm-hmm.
She
didn't identify herself then, but how did she feel to you? Did she feel worrisome at all, or you knew you could trust her?
Oh yeah, no, she had a beautiful energy, very much a warrior type energy.
I thought you said warrior. I am so sorry. It's my Canadian accent. You said warrior. Gotcha.
Yeah, sorry, it's my English.
No, it's because I'm thinking, why would she say warrior? And I hope you don't feel like you're on this spot here, because I want you to share your story. It's an interesting story. So she showed up in your room. Sorry, you said, and was she the one that shared some premonitions about Earth?
I don't think she did. Mm-hmm. No, I don't think she did.
Okay.
No.
Because you've had some, and again, please forgive me. I was listening at like 5 o'clock in the morning this morning, my time, as I was crafting. I'm making a lot of resin things right now, and I'm addicted almost. I can't stop. And I was listening because I wanted, you and I've never met before, so this is the first time. So yeah. I wanted to familiarize myself. So I guess maybe let's move on to a little bit more of a topic, because you were talking about that you've been an abductee and UFO experiencer. So how did that start for you? Or how does, because people love to talk about that. I know Zach is really interested in that, who's in our audience. We have quite a few people that listen live all around. So I'd love to hear that.
Well, the first abductee experience I remember, because I do have a lot of blocked memories still from my childhood. Right. But the first one I was living in Galway. Mm-hmm. And this was before I actually moved to Lewisburg and began to consciously channel the Pleiadians. And this was the Greys. This was where I was taken on board. And I was on a table, a slab of table, and I could hear people groaning and crying and shouting and mumbling, and they're in distress. They were in distress. I did write about this in my book. Mm-hmm. But so I was taken up on board, and I was on this table, and I had 2 Greys on my left and then 1 Grey on my right. Mm-hmm. And I remember waking up because I'd been unconscious or put out. Mm-hmm. And then I woke up in whatever process they were doing. And I felt I was hooked up to some type of either device or medical equipment or somewhere. I think it was around my head, or it might have been lower down in my body. I'm not sure, but I was definitely not able to move or to get off the table. Right. And they were talking to me telepathically and talking to each other telepathically as well. And they said, "This one's different." And I never really understood that for a long time, but I do now. I understand it a little bit more, I think. But
so what does that mean now that you understand that?
Well, I take that. My understanding of that is that I'm not from here, that I'm a starseed, that I'm from the Pleiadians, the
Can I
Pleiadian
stop you
stars.
for a second? Because a lot of people are going to say, what's a star seed? I hear that, but I have no idea what it means.
Yeah. Well, I call it coming from the outside in. So we come from the outside, whether it's the Pleiadians or Lyra or Sirius. We come from all different star nations, and we've come in at this life during this period of opportunity to come in and to help awaken humanity on a mass scale. So we come from different places. We're not we're hybrids. We're hybrids.
So when you say hybrid, you would mean half of whether you'd be a Lyrian or a Pleiadian or a Syrian, and then half human?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, I get that. You might not even be able to answer this. This is going through my mind, though. I understand to awaken humanity, but how does that happen? Like, I guess when you decide to make this incarnation into this lifetime, you carry part of that energy, and then the human energy, is that what that is?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge answer. But I believe it's in our DNA. I believe it's in our subconscious. I believe that we need to wake up first. We need to wake up first to remember who we are.
So
and
are we all star seeds in your mind then? Or
I don't think well, I mean, I think we are all star seeds, but I think we come from different places. I think some of us are good star seeds and some of us are not so good.
okay.
So there's no generality in starseeddom.
Well, I think for me, the term starseed would be a positive, a positive DNA or consciousness or awareness. So I wouldn't call the reptilian race a starseed. I wouldn't call them starseeds.
Definitely.
What's the differentiation between starseed and not?
Well, a starseed, in my humble opinion, is that we come from the outside in, and I feel that very strongly that both you and Lorilei are starseeds. So we come from the outside in, and we're here to help awaken and shift humanity's awareness and consciousness. So I guess we're more awake, more aware, and we remember our purpose, our mission, our reason for being here. And I think that is the definition of a starseed. When we've awoken to seeing some of our mission, when we understand our mission, our purpose, our reason for being here, then we can, I guess, call ourselves starseeds. But years ago, I didn't know any of this. You know, I remember hearing that the Queen was reptilian, and I remember laughing at it. So back then,
I'm not laughing at it. I'm smiling because I've heard that and I believe it.
Yeah, me too.
What you may not know is over here in Canada, she visited here with Prince Philip many years ago, and we have obviously a very large Aboriginal First Nations population. And she went all the way out to the West Coast, and she went on a picnic with Prince Philip with 7 boys and 3 girls that were First Nations children. She didn't return with them, and their bodies were found a year later, and there were no questions asked, nothing whatsoever. Interesting picnic.
My whole body's just gone cold internally. I've heard about that, Lorilei, before, and I think that's not an isolated case. I think there are many cases like that. There's also a video circulating on the internet for a number of years with you've seen it with the boy coming from with the boy escaping from naked. He looks Indian,
and he falls.
Yes, and he falls, and you never know what happens to him. Like,
Oh, I was hoping you were going to tell me, because I've wondered myself what happened to that
yeah,
poor guy. It was so sad.
It's horrific. I mean, it's beyond words. And you just wonder, because he looks like he's under duress. He looks
he's got no clothes on, and
Yeah.
he's throwing bed sheets tied together from the top floor of Buckingham Palace, and he's climbing down so shakily. And the thing is that this wasn't planned for anybody to film this. As I understand it, it was a journalist from Turkey who was visiting and was watching, and please correct me if I've used the wrong words, but the marching of the royal guard, I guess, across in front of the palace. And that's how he caught that on film. And it was denied, right? It was denied by the palace. It was denied by authorities that it even happened. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that it was a Turkish tourist. But how can they deny something? And I didn't know they denied it.
Yeah, there's a really good film out there called The Fall of the Cabal. It's done by a Dutch film documentarian, and she covers it in there. And then she's now got a second part, actually, that's very interesting. She goes back to the history of, like, I think 1000 BC, how this all started and what's happening. You know, I guess what I want to ask you, though, is what's the purpose of reptilians being here? Like, why are they here?
Oh God, I have seen the Fall of the Cabal, and that was really good.
It's excellent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, it's so the reason for the reptilians being here is that I believe is that it's a war of the worlds. So it's a war on humanity. It's a war on consciousness. It's a war on evolution. It's a war to do with the earth. It's about ownership. It's a war between light and dark. It's a war on our real history, our galactic connection, which was severed, I believe, at the time of Atlantis. So there's so many different things going on here, but basically we are humanity has been enslaved to the reptilians. So they're here for ownership of the earth and ownership of humanity.
So what is humanity doing in your perspective that's enslaving us to the reptilians? I'm just asking from your perspective, like, not, and all these questions, I'm just very curious. Like, I want to know, like, what's your perspective? Like, what do you think? And
I think that we're in a very cathartic time. I think we're in a window period of opportunity. I feel I've been shown that we're in the reversal of what happened at Atlantis. So I was shown that a large meteor hit the Earth around the time of the downfall of Atlantis, causing the Earth to shift off its natural axis, which caused great catastrophic events like the landmass shifting. I believe that Atlantis has a lot to do with the Antarctica.
Interesting.
And also when the reptilian energy came in around the time of Atlantis and overthrew the Atlanteans, our DNA was changed, was dumbed down, was manipulated. And originally we had 13 strands of DNA. And so now we're in the reversal of Atlantis, where the Earth is naturally shifting back onto her natural axis. And so there will be catastrophic events. But that has already started to happen. We've already seen catastrophic events, unfolding and occurring on Earth for a very long time, for a number of years. So they've happened. So we've become, I guess, desensitized is the wrong word, but they've become a normal part of our.
It's almost like amnesia, isn't it? It's almost like an amnesia that we just don't know any different. And it seems like it only takes about 3 generations for anything. I have a really good friend that I haven't had him on recently. I used to have him on once a month and he got so busy. But he's going back to 1900 or so and correcting history and putting in where it's been changed with the resources. He used to work for ABC News and stuff, and he actually worked with Marcel Vogel with the Vogel crystals and things. And it seems it takes about 3 generations, and then people don't know any different between the education system and what.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about, oh, we got Shady D here. Hey, Shady D, how are you? Okay, let's see. Somebody, go ahead.
Sorry, Lorilei. Can I just go back to the reversal of Atlantis? Because I think
I was just going to ask you. I was just asking a question. So go ahead. Sorry, my dog keeps coming over when we were talking. She was the one I was talking about. She loves Auntie Sarah, and she usually shows up.
She is beautiful.
Well, thank you. This is Emmy. Okay, go ahead. Sure, I'd love to hear more about that.
So now we are in an evolutionary process that has been, the negative agenda or the reptilian have tried to stop this natural process by putting different things into us, like COVID, and different plays within history. But this is a natural evolutionary process. We are changing. Our brains are changing. Our minds are changing. Our DNA is changing. Our blood is changing. Our bodies are changing. We are evolving. Our auric fields are changing. Our abilities are increasing. Psychic awareness, mediumship. Our galactic communication was severed. A veil of amnesia was placed around the earth. And we forgot who we were. We forgot where we came from. We forgot that we live in a galactic universe, in a universe, universe, and that we're not alone. We've never been alone. We don't come from here. We've forgotten.
You pause for a second, Soma. I'm sorry, Miss Soma. So COVID comes from the reptilians, and how does that happen?
Well, let me rephrase maybe the question a little bit. Are you, because I know from listening to your past podcast, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is that where we're seeing the cabal? Is that who's involved with the cabal? Is that is that what you're talking about, or?
Yeah, so another word for reptilian would be cabal, Illuminati, negative agenda, black hats. I see them all as being the same thing. I don't see any difference between them. They may not be aware of, because it is like a pyramid system. So, the Illuminati at the bottom, or the runners, I guess you could call them, may not be aware of the reptilian energy at the top level. But I class it all as the same thing. So what I've been shown is that COVID was created in a lab, and it was either accidentally or on purpose released into us to cause havoc, to keep us dumbed down, to keep us in fear. But there's also things like cancer, which I think is also, I totally believe that cancer is caused by an alien or reptilian race that has been put into us. And if you look back in history, there doesn't seem to be any evidence of cancer in our history.
Why?
Yeah, why?
Why would they want to do that? I guess I'm wondering.
Because they are trying to keep us dumbed down, keep us enslaved, keep us in fear. Because both sides, both agendas are fighting for our lives, fighting for our souls, fighting for our DNA, fighting for Mother Earth. So both sides, positive and negative, both have an agenda. One is good and one is bad in that kind of language. So it's I guess it's a game between light and dark, but I do see a positive outcome. I absolutely do see a positive outcome. But so it's a game on humanity. It's a game. It's an energetic war on humanity. So anything they can chuck at us to keep us dumbed down, to stop us from evolving, because we are evolving naturally and we are waking up naturally. Each side has an agenda.
Okay, so I have another question then. So when you're saying they're at war for our souls, because I always kind of thought that we were more, whether you want to call it source energy, God, what have you. So are you equating these ETs, the good ones, with the negative ones, with what some people may believe to be angels and demons? Then is that because people are putting in the chat, we are at war and things like that. So are you equating them to the same, or?
Yeah, I feel that I believe I've seen that. I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying, because I think at the top, or on the outer span, that we are both. We are the light, we are the dark, we are the reptilian, we are the Pleiadian, we are the starseeds, we are the angel and the demon. At a God level, we are everything. There is no divide between light and dark at a God source. Everything is rolled into one. Mm-hmm. At the highest level. But when you on this earthly plane, there is duality.
Yeah, there's always duality, but I guess I'm just trying to understand that why they would want our souls. What happened with your belief with Atlantis too? Well, let's even just go with, why would they want our souls? Like, I could understand if it was a war for humanity, I guess, especially if we're asleep and we don't realize that, we're enslaved. I guess even to the point that, what are we enslaved with? Like, is it fear? Like, are we doing something for these negative reptilians? What are we doing for them? Versus
thank you. What exactly do we do for them? Because our humanity as we know it isn't very old. So
we are, well, I believe that we're a lot older than we're taught in our schools. But we are, they feed off our negative energy.
Okay, that makes sense.
We're food for them. We're a food source. So it's crucial. It's really absolutely crucial that we keep our energy as high as we possibly can. And whenever I found my energy going down, I'm very conscious these days that I need to bring it back up and maintain it there. And if I feel it coming down again, then I go back up and maintain it there. Always trying to reach higher and higher states of awareness.
Actually, somebody just put in chat, Shady T. She said it's a spiritual war she feels, and the best resources we have to utilize is high vibrations. The dark cannot survive in the light. And I hear
it's our biggest weapon.
And I'm not, like I said, I'm trying to make this more understandable, maybe for somebody that just tunes in, never hears this before, because and it's hard to make sense of when you start to break it down. But the fact is that a lot of people are going to be saying, well, what am I waking up to? I'm not asleep. Well, we know people are asleep because they're not aware of what's at play here. Some people, again, believe it's alien agenda. Some don't. Everybody's got a different idea about this. But that's the one thing people I know ask all the time is, well, what am I waking up with? Who was I before? And what am I do if I'm being controlled and I'm a slave? I believe I'm free. So I guess to explain to people, what are they a slave to? Like, why are they waking up if they're a slave? Like, what do they need to wake up to?
to the truth of who we are, where we came from, why we're here, what's really going on, that our governments are lying to us on a mass scale about everything. You know, the earth, the origins of the earth, the origins of us, the spiritual people throughout generations have been massacred on a mass scale, you know, murdered and raped and killed, and horrendous atrocities. And I believe that that is because of it's not because of their culture. I believe it's because of their spirituality, because of their DNA, because of their remembering of who they are. For example, the Native Americans, you know, it's in their history, in their oral tradition to pass down stories from generation to generation. And in our history, we write it in books, and those books have been long burned. So it's a war on our DNA, on our awareness, on our consciousness, on humanity, of who we are, where we came from, why we're here. And we need to wake up to the truth that we're lied to on a mass scale. The governments do not have our best interests at heart.
Definitely.
And are run by reptilians at the highest level, are run by reptilians, and that we are a mixture of different hybrid races, that we're from different places, that we have the ability, we have beautiful abilities beyond our perception, you know, at this moment, the majority of people anyway, where we actually are well able to connect with beings like Pleiadians and other star nation beings like Lyrians or Syrians, or we have it's in our DNA that was changed and manipulated and dumbed down. They severed our galactic connection.
I have a question. So, Miss Soma, what was your biggest reckoning or awakening moment that you would say would be most noted among all of your awakening moments?
I think one of them, I think the most profound for me, like on a personal level, is when the Pleiadians, when Ashtar said to me that, and I'll quote, we are the gods, and the word God in the Bible should be replaced with the word gods, and then things would start to make much more sense.
Okay, so if that was
but when he's talking about the gods, he's talking about star nations, beings that aren't from Earth. Sorry, Lorilei, go on.
Okay, well, I just had a question, but from the chat room, but I want to ask you this as well. So when you say if we replace that word with that we are the gods, is Ashtar saying then that there is no God, there is no source, there is no?
No, he's not saying that. He's saying that the Bible has been changed. Gotcha. And manipulated, and words have been taken out. Whole sections have been taken out by about one of them being about reincarnation, because that was in the Bible. So he's saying that the Bible has been changed and manipulated, and that they are the gods, meaning that we worshipped them because they came from down from above and came to us. And but God is still all of us. We are God. We are part of God. So, and so are they. They are also part of God. So God would be the omnipresence.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Can you hang on just for a sec? Because Dell's been waiting in the chat here. He wants to know, when you were talking about waking up, he goes, if we wake up and we go where after we wake up? That was from the chat room. They're wondering, what did you mean by that?
What do you mean, Lorilei?
Well, I guess we're going to back up a few minutes to the conversation. We were saying we need to wake up to understand who we are. And their question is, wake up and go where after, or do what after once we wake up?
We evolve to the next level.
Okay.
And then the next level, and then the next level, and the next level. A bit like school.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are thousands of planets and stars, nations, all operating at different levels.
Okay.
And Earth, you could say Earth is in its infancy in terms of awareness. So what happens on Earth is not contained to Earth. It is far reaching. It's not just an evolutionary process on Earth with us as being humans. It's also a galactic, a multi-dimensional, a beautiful geometry within the universe where everything is in a movement with each other. So our evolution, what's going on Earth at the moment, affects other planets and star systems. So it's an evolutionary process where we go to the next level and the next level and the next level.
Okay. Like I said, we could probably do a whole show on that part, but let's talk about some of your books, because as I understand it, one of them has been banned by Amazon, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened with that?
Well, it was a channeled book on last year and what was going on, current events at the time, and it was about the bioweapon. It was about just a whole load of things, and COVID-19 and everything. And I wrote that. I did it very quickly because I felt it needed to get out there as soon as possible, so I did it very quickly. And then I put it out there. I put it onto Amazon and it was banned immediately. And they never told me why. They just said it went against their, I think, community standards or some nonsense like that. But basically, they banned it because of what I'm talking about.
Okay, we got another question again in the chat. I guess they didn't quite understand your answer, because they said, wake up here on Earth. And then they said, what do you do here on Earth once awoken, or do you disappear, is what they're asking.
Well, my awakening has been as a process, a number of years. Okay. So I've woken up in stages or in waves, where I've got to a level, but I've always asked for more. Like when I've been sitting in mediumship circles, for instance, I've always asked for more, and that's how I was trained as a medium. You always ask for more, but some people don't ask for more. They stay at a certain level, but I always ask for more. So the more you ask for more, the more you will get. So the more you question things, question everything, research and question everything, including me, the more information you will get. I don't ever want to get to a level personally where I feel I know everything, because I don't think that even exists. I don't think that's possible. I think there's always something more to learn. There's always the next stage of evolution. There's always the next stage of waking up. There's always something more to learn, because the universe is always expanding, always expanding. So there's always, because God is always looking for the next thing, always. So the universe is always expanding. So there's always the next level. So we just wake up and 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 wake up until we are enlightened.
Yeah, but why not get it all at once, like a universal download? Because I know people that have had universal downloads where they actually, he's going to be on the show next week, Augie Nost, and it's like it just came to him, and he explains it like it was like all the knowledge that there possibly could be. and there was no ego involved in sharing this. And why are we not getting that as human beings, all of us then?
Because I was shown it in a way where I was shown a plug being put into a socket. If you put it in too quickly, it's going to spark out. So the body, so he must be very enlightened, where he's had several past lives where he's learned a lot of things. He's probably a very old soul, probably lived on a lot of different planets and places and star systems, because you have to be able to withhold that energy within your body. You need to be on a high level, because if you're not, and you plug in and you automatically you automatically awaken to a lot of information, it will be too much for the body to handle. So that is that is connected to Kundalini and the energy within our bodies. It's often represented as a snake, but that is there's a saying for it, or a name for it in yoga, or where it's if you wake your Kundalini up too quickly, it will frazzle and burn out. So it will burn out your energy, your system, your body. So we do need to wake up slowly, because if we wake up too quickly, then it will frazzle, like a spark will just go on fire, and it burns the body out. I actually feel really sorry for people that are waking up now, that have 5 minutes to do it, and they need to wake up now, because there's no time to dilly-dally with what's going on in the world. But I also think that people who are waking up now and they've got 5 minutes to do it are also probably more evolved than we are, because they need to wake up quickly. They need to remember who they are, where they're from, why they're here, quickly, because there's a certain window of opportunity that we've got now. So I actually feel that they are more advanced than we are, or that I am, because I don't think I would have been able to do that in 5 minutes. I needed my childhood, I needed my teenage years, I needed my 20s, my 30s, my 40s. So I needed to process. I needed it to be drawn out.
I have a question.
Okay.
What does Kundalini mean? Kundalini, what is that?
I would say it's your energy. I kind of see it coming from I see it coming from my root chakra, and I see it going up the body. So it's Kundalini is energy. It's energy.
Well, we do have one more question, a couple comment and a question in here. Again, this person's asking, so if you're awake, are you still needing food once you're awoken? Like I said, and again, we're not trying to put you on the spot here. People are trying to understand what you're sharing here. So
yeah, I do. I still need food, but I have heard stories where, and I don't know if they're true or not, but I have heard stories where some people don't need food, or have reported that they don't need food, because they're at a higher level than I am, where they are not needing food to sustain themselves. And I do believe that's possible. I didn't always used to think that. I think I've even said publicly that probably wasn't possible, but I think now, I think it probably is possible. But
there are monks in their 40s that lived like 25, 30 years without food.
Yeah, so I mean, everybody's different. So, and I always say, what you perceive is what you believe, and it becomes your reality. So I think it's possible. I mean, there's people that can heal themselves with the power of the mind, a change in diet. There's all kinds of things like that. I guess then I'm not sure what you're asking here, Del. You put food for the reptiles. I guess you need to sort of clarify a little bit more here about that. I guess let's get in. This goes by so quick, and I know it's late there. So again, I really appreciate it, because we're already, I think we got about 35 minutes left only, maybe 40. But okay, so when you were talking about channeling, now the title of your first book is, sorry, I had somebody, my partner here just came in the room. So it's the Pleiadian child, is it not?
Yeah,
okay,
the Pleiadian child. Yeah.
That one's not banned, right?
No, that's not banned.
Okay,
No.
is that channeled? And even if it's not, for people trying to understand, when you say you channel or you channel these books, can you explain to people sort of what that means, or like how you get this information? Or
I go into, well, I just open up and I go into an altered state. When I first started doing it consciously, I began actually doing it on my laptop because I can type quicker than I can write.
Writing then? Automatic writing?
It's not automatic writing. It's more because I've always done the mediumship. I mean, my granddad came to me when I was a child at the age of 9. So I've always, I don't see the spirit physically these days so much, but I started seeing, I saw my granddad physically when I was 9. So
he was already, he wasn't on this realm then, you mean he was passed away by then?
Yes, he died when I was 9 and he came back to me. But I saw him solidly, so I don't see really that much these days. I don't see solidly. I see it in my mind's eye. But I've been working with spirit for a number of years. So the way I work now is I work more on a telepathic, where they are next to me. And that actually changed last year, where during a live interview, in the live interview, they told me to close my eyes because they were next to me, the Pleiadians. And so I did that, and they stepped into me and started to use my voice, which is called direct voice channeling. But the way I used to work is that when I was channeling, they would telepathy and taking dictation, really, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay. It used to be like taking dictation.
That's why you're saying it's not automatic. See, for me, like when I won't do trance channeling because of the experiences we've had with the paranormal, but with automatic writing. Now, these questions, a lot of them I'm asking you, I understand the answers, but I know we've got a lot of people in the chat that are, tuning in, they want to understand this. And just before I ask you the question, I want to say hello to Michelle Pratt. She's here, so welcome. But when you say open yourself up, like to somebody, they'll be, well, does that mean like you open your eyes, you open your mouth? Like, what does that mean for somebody? Because I believe as human beings that we have forgotten everything that we're capable of. We are capable of so much more than we've ever been told or that we could ever believe. So most people won't understand what opening yourself up is. So what does that mean for people? How do you prepare yourself? Because like I said, there's more and more people waking every day, but there's still a bit of a preparation that you have to do, especially in the beginning. Maybe not so much now that you're used to it, but if somebody was new to this, like, how do you know that's not just, oh my God, I'm hearing voices, or do you know what I mean? So
yeah, I that's such a great subject that we could really get into.
Okay.
But meditation, I would say, is the key to opening up. Meditation. And but I after that out of body experience, when I was 12, I started to meditate straight away after that, and I didn't even know it was called meditation. I just used to sit in my room with my eyes closed, right, and go somewhere else in my mind. Mm-hmm. So. And I started to read as well, spiritual books by Edgar Cayce and Doris Stokes, who used to be a famous medium. But anyway, so opening up to me is sitting still in the peace and quiet and meditating and letting your mind drift into a different state. because there's different mind states. You know, you have the alpha, the delta, the beta, the theta, and there's another one as well that I always forget the name of. But you know, allowing yourself to become out of your mind, opening up to the possibility that you can connect with your loved ones in spirit, like your granny or your granddad, and that they are not dead, that they are just in a different place. They may not be physical, but just opening your mind to different possibilities, to different realities, to different mind states, and coming away from the programming that the school system puts into us, where it starts in the school system of being programmed, coming away from the mainstream narrative, coming away from the media, coming away from anything outside of yourself, and just listening to your heart and how you feel, not what you think. So stepping out of your mind and into your heart.
Would you call that maybe quieting your mind? Like we call it the monkey mind, the chatter. And that's the hardest thing for people to do. But, you know, I always say that meditation is my workspace. That's where I go. And I never realized it till I went away on a conference and I was around people all day long. And I always thought I had no problem being around other people. I do, because you pick up their energy, you pick up their thoughts, you pick up all their stuff. So I almost crave that quiet. If I need to figure something out, and no, I don't hear voices, it's in my voice, but it's said either for my highest good, it's meant in love, or whatever it is, I know that it's spirit. I know that it's spirit. Yeah. It takes a long time to recognize that. But my whole point of mentioning this is I believe every human being on this planet is capable of that. I believe that babies and very young children, because they live in the now, and they do, their work is play, that they very well can see spirit as well as animals, because they're nothing but unconditional love, right?
Yeah.
So is that what you're talking about when you say stepping out of your mind? It's like letting it all just drift by and sitting in the quiet and still.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you watch babies and even young children, you know, but especially babies, that when they look into a certain corner of the room, or they're making noises, and they can see something, and it's so clear, it's so evident that they can see something that you're not seeing.
Have you ever seen that video out there? There's a couple of them, and it's a little one. I think it's a little girl, little African American little one, and she looks like she's about 16 to 18 months old. She doesn't have much language, and her mother takes her to her grandmother's grave, and she films her. And then the little one is going, "Okay, Grandma, I give you a kiss. Grandma, miss you. Oh, thank you, Grandma." And you know she's talking to someone, and she's waving, and it's such a beautiful thing. Or a baby sitting in a room, like you said, and yeah, they could be looking at a corner, or they're sitting there and they're laughing and they're tracking something around the room. You know somebody's playing with them or talking to them, because babies just don't normally do that. They don't might play with a toy or something, but you can tell they're interacting with someone.
Yeah, I haven't seen that video, but I'll have a look out for it. But yeah, you can tell with children, because they're in a different world. You know, they're in between. I would guess you could say in between heaven and here. They're just
they remember where they came from. We were just talking about this actually on the previous show with the paranormal, that when it comes to, I've studied near-death experiences for about 40 years. And even when you especially children fascinate me, that there's countless stories of children that as soon as they can talk, they start to have night terrors. They remember who they are, even say with a birthmark. There was one child in India that I guess was murdered by somebody who was never solved. And he came in with a birthmark exactly where he'd been injured in the back of the head. He identified his killer, told the police where the hidden murder weapon was, but he kept saying, I miss my family. I miss my family. And he'd never been to the city. The parents ended up having to bring him. But there's countless stories like this. And I think it's because children, they're so pure and clear-minded and living in the now again. Their work is play. I'll repeat that they remember who they are and where they've come from.
Yeah, I mean, I had that as well, Lorilei, where my mum took me to Dublin for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I do write about it in my book, but I was telling her names, street names,
yeah.
and showing her what was around the corner and down there and over there, and the place names and the area.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew I'd never been there before.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she knew Dublin, because she was Irish. So, I don't think she really knew what to make of me. But I did remember, my lifetimes, some lifetimes as a child, and Dublin was one of them. When she took me there, because I was just remembering how it looked, and I'd been a man in a previous lifetime where I'd worked in some type of, I think it was a clothing factory or something, but I was quite, I had a strong faith in God. I wouldn't say I was religious, but I was attending church, and I just remembered different lifetimes when I was a child,
Mm-hmm.
and that was one of them. Yeah, but I don't think she knew what to make of me.
I think parents have great difficulty. I'm finding now that some parents are starting to be more open about this because this is more openly talked about, or they'll see it in a movie or TV or read about it. But that's still one of the jobs that I do. Is I would never mentor a child, obviously, without a parent's permission. But we're finding more parents saying, I know my child is different. There's something not quite right here. How do I support them? How do I, I'm freaked out. What can I do? Kind of thing, even.
Yeah. And I think that's part of our evolutionary process where, more and more children with each generation that passes, each generation seems to be more aware, more awake, aware and conscious. So there are, there are children now that remember, who they are on a galactic level. So they remember that they're not from here, that they're from different star systems or different star nations, and so that they remember past lives, but not past lives on Earth, past lives somewhere else. And
so sorry, I was just going to ask you, do you think that if people wake up and they remember who they are, is that when what's going to be disclosed about UFOs and ETs? Or why are they hiding it from us? Pretty well the world knows they exist.
I don't think we're ever going to get disclosure from the governments and the powers that be. I feel that disclosure will come in a different way. I feel that we're probably
like first contact, like they'll just show up.
Yeah. I mean, they've been showing up for a number of years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think there will be a genuine landing at some point. I feel that there probably will be a fake landing as well, probably more than one. And it's going to take us to discern what is real and what is not. I don't think we're ever going to get disclosure from the governments, because if they were going to disclose it, they would have done that by now. I mean, they are so far advanced. The negative agenda is so far advanced. The governments are so far advanced in technology and what is really available to us in terms of technology, especially with free energy and things like that, and that is still, we still don't have it in the public, and yet it's available. Technology has been developed. So it's all about corruption and money and greed and power and keeping us enslaved. So why would they disclose?
Enslaved, though, so people understand that, because I can see people watching this going, what is this woman talking about enslaved? I can do whatever I want when I want. So how am I enslaved?
Well, by wearing a mask, by needing a vaccine, by not being able to leave. I can't leave the UK at the moment.
No, I can't.
I can't leave the US.
None of us
So,
can.
I mean, we are slaves. You know,
Yeah, but that's just this year.
Yeah.
But before that, like, how were we enslaved?
Yeah.
Like, people will agree with you that, yes, but
Lorilei's got the same thing I'm probably about to say, is that what's the difference between being enslaved and being under mandate?
Well, I don't think there's much difference.
So you don't believe that there's a pandemic happening?
Loaded question.
And you know, I've got both barrels happening.
Sorry?
I've got both barrels pointed at you, so no pressure.
Yeah, I got that, Seraphin. I think there is so much going on. I think we're lied to on a mass scale. I think the media is full of BS. I think COVID was a bioweapon that was put into society, put into us as humanity. I think we are lied to on a mass scale by the media, who are run by negative reptilians. I believe that there is, you know, COVID in terms of a bioweapon, but I feel that it hasn't had the effect or the velocity that they had created it to have. And I do feel that we've probably had help from positive ETs to do with that aspect. So I believe we have had a lot of help where they have dumbed down the negative effects of the Wuhan COVID. So I feel it would have been a lot worse without the positive help from the ETs. But we've been lied to on such a mass scale that, and there's so much going on, but, you know, with the masks and everything.
There's actually Michelle Pratt put this in beautifully, and I love what she put here. When we're talking about being enslaved, she says we have to work to earn money. If you don't have money, you can't live. And you know what? I think that that's the biggest, hugest enslavement for humanity. You know, nothing's being shared. 95% of the world's wealth belongs to 1% of the population. That rather than, you know, like you said, free energy. I think, thank you for that, Michelle, because I think you've put it really in a nutshell. This is all about money and, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's such a great question. What I was shown is that money is one of the greatest evils that was ever created on earth, because it puts us at an instant divide to those that have and those that don't have. And it's an evil construct. I mean, it's the most evil thing that was ever created, because it's an instant divide. And it puts into us also a longing to have more, to be more, to own more, to do more, to be someone that has
comparison, thinking you're not enough, that you're never going to have this, you're never going to have that. I definitely agree with you on that part. Now, I'm going to ask you just a question out of the blue here. So, okay, what do you think really is going on then with the political agenda? Like, I'm going to just share this with you. I've never said this, but my thoughts are that whomever is running for politics, say in the US, I don't think they are who they say they are. I don't know if they've got a mask on. I don't know what they've got, but even when you compare pictures, they don't look the same. What's your thought?
I think a lot of them are clones. I think some of them are very cheap clones. that are malfunctioning, or have moments when they malfunction, and when they don't know what to say, or when they fall over going up the stairs. The malfunctioning.
You're so right about that. Yes. I again, like I said, I know a lot of these answers to what I'm asking you. It's just we've got people, in the chat that are trying to understand what you're saying now. We've before, like I said, I know it goes by so quick. I know you're probably exhausted. It's probably almost close to 3 a.m. there. But
No, I'm thoroughly enjoying this. I'm so
okay,
so. I haven't done many interviews where I've been bombarded with questions, but I'm really enjoying it.
Okay,
really enjoying it.
Well, Sarah doesn't usually co-host with me. It's just she joined us because we have a paranormal chat before this. And usually we go right up to the hour before I start, but we stopped a little earlier. So I said, Sarah was hanging out, and I said, Sarah, why don't you join me? Because we do a show actually together on Tuesday nights. And we do this, we feed off each other. But I guess what I was going to ask you is, in your other podcast I was listening to, you've got quite a few gifts that have been unlocked. Now, do you think this is from the Pleiadians? Was this always with you? Or is it because maybe you're remembering who you are? Or
it's a really good question.
I didn't catch that, Lorilei. I didn't catch all of it. You said that I have a lot of guests that are
gifts, like intuitive gifts,
okay.
that have seemed to come to fruition. And I was wondering, do you believe that they've been unlocked because of your contact with the Pleiadians, or did you always have these gifts? Like you said, mediumship, there's your psychic abilities. You were talking about some of the other gifts that you have, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, like telepathy, or you could pick up on other people's thoughts at sometimes and things like that.
I think that's such a freaking awesome question, and I think that's really, you've really hit the nail on the head there. You've really over the target there, because with me, I didn't have any secondary education.
Okay.
I didn't have it. I would try and go a few times. I would go, and then I would just I was actually held in this vortex of energy where I couldn't move. And I've had that a few times over my lifetime. And it's always a safety mechanism. For instance, I had it when I was taking driving lessons, and then I was held in this vortex of energy, and I watched a car accident, to the parallel road to me. So it's always at times of safety for me. But I was held in this vortex of energy, and I was looking at the school gates, and I couldn't move. I couldn't enter the school system. And that was a memory that I'd also forgotten, and came back to me during the shamanic courses in Ireland, where I remembered word for word what they said. And they said, we didn't let you enter the school system because, quote, otherwise you would have been lost to us. So I think the biggest thing for me, in my own evolution, in my own process, in my own discovery, in my own gifts and abilities, because I do seem to have developed them to quite a good level. I think it was the lack of the secondary education, because I would have been lost to them. I wouldn't have, I don't believe at all that I would have been able to work in the way that I do now with the Pleiadians, in the way that I do, if I'd gone into the school secondary education. I wouldn't be able to. I would have been programmed, dumbed down, all of it. So they kept me out of it. Thankfully, they kept me out of the school system.
So what are some of the gifts that you had? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to ask you, because you had shared some pretty incredible gifts that you're able to. I believe I want to say his name is from the UK. It was done about a month ago, and he's felt you. I think he identified as the agent? No, it was James Bond of psychic ability. I'll look up his name while I'm talking to you, but I listened to it. It was an hour-long interview, and he's been abducted. He's also had many experiences. He was talking about some of the abilities that you guys seem to have that a lot of people don't have. Give me a minute and I'll find his name for you. It's in my history here.
Okay, Lorilei.
Sorry. Where are you? I'm up here. I know you're here. Oh, don't. Okay. Nope. Here we go. Tony Topping. That was the.
Oh yes, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, he's amazing. He's had a lot of experiences as well, and I do feel that he's a starseed. Although he wouldn't call himself that, he would call himself a warrior. But he's had a lot of experiences like me, where it's been, one experience after the other, after the other, after the other. And I think they do that so that we don't forget who we are, so that we keep remembering.
You guys were talking about some of the abilities that you guys realized that you had in common. Like they're not the usual gifts that you will see with, say, someone like myself being a psychic medium, or Sarah being a psychic as well, and she's actually quite a good medium too. So what are some of the? Could you hear me?
No, I didn't catch that, Lorilei.
No, I was just wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing some of those extra gifts that you seem, both of you had a lot in common. Like I mentioned, one of them I think was telepathy. Was there any other really, extra type of gifts that you don't see very common within humanity nowadays?
Yeah, we do have the telepathy. I mean, as a child, I was able to hear what people were thinking, and to see auras and read their energy. And I basically started to learn it because I was trying to ascertain whether that man was safe or not. So that's why I started to read energy. I wanted to know, were they safe to be around? And a lot of them weren't. But so other abilities, I guess, would be, I remember the one thing that happened to me once. I was going up in a lift, and I was just in the middle of a very difficult breakup with my partner, and I was going up in the lift, and I was fiddling with my key, and I was very on a very high emotional state. Right. Very strong emotion, and I was feeling anger at the time, and I was doing this to my key as I was going up in the lift, and it was only one floor up, and so it must have been about less than a minute it took me to get from the lift to my apartment. And by the time I got to my apartment, I couldn't open the door because the key had bent.
Oh,
yeah. And I had to go and get the caretaker because I couldn't get in. I had to go and get the caretaker to help straighten my key. And he looked at me and he said, "What have you been doing?" And I said, well, I didn't know what to say to him. I said, "I didn't do anything."
How do you answer that one? I was just rubbing my fingers from the floor, one step floor up, and this is what happened.
I know, right? I mean, how do you? I don't know. I don't know what I did to it.
Idea. So again, I want, because we've only got, I hate to keep saying that because, like I said, this has gone by so quick. So how often would you say you connect with the Pleiadians, and like, can you do it at will, or because I know you've got your own show and you've got a beautiful web page, and even on Facebook, I know you share channeled messages. So do they just come to you, or do you call on them, or?
I guess I'm still learning to connect to them at will. I'm still learning that. They normally come in, but I'm finding more and more that the more I learn I'm still in the process of learning to connect with them at will, but that's getting easier and easier as time goes on. But when I need them, I guess, if I'm in a state of urgency or emergency where I need that they're connection or help or support or healing, then I find that they come in. I find I guess most of the time I feel that they're there around me. Most of the time. It's more about me taking time out to sit down and having time out.
So do they contact you ever when they feel there's something pertinent that you need to share with humanity?
Oh, yes. Yeah, they do that quite a lot, especially when I'm asleep.
Oh, I bet. Well, we're most open then, right? So
yeah.
So you remember then if you're asleep and they give you a message, or like, do you keep a notepad? I'm just interested because most of us don't read. Well, some people do.
Yeah,
but
I'm intrigued. How do you know that it wasn't a dream?
Because I guess when I wake up, they're still there.
Ah, okay.
So they'll often wake me up and give me a message, or give me a message and then wake me up, and they're still there, and I'm hearing the message. And they do that quite a lot. Normally, if it's really urgent, I will go straight onto the laptop and do a live video. If it's really urgent, and they've done that a couple of times last year.
What would constitute urgent? Just so people know, like if there's some information we need to hear, then you know what I mean? Like what would they give you that would be urgent? And I'm really curious, like this is just a genuine question, because I think it could be very helpful with the abilities that they have, and they're sharing that message with you for a reason.
Well, things like bad weather coming, or extreme weather, or
the tsunami you mentioned something about.
Yes. Yeah, that type of situation. Yeah, with water coming up. I mean, I still get those. I had one a couple of days ago where, I think it was last week actually, where there was water coming up, and it's coming up towards the coastal region of the UK. So it comes up from Devon and Cornwall,
right,
and kind of stops midway, kind of in the middle, around Bournemouth, Southampton, Portsmouth, and it kind of stops at Portsmouth. So with the water coming up, and also the west coast of Ireland as well, right up to, I guess, Sligo, Mayo area, and then also with right up to Scotland within the UK. So kind of the tip of Scotland. I just see water coming in. I mean, people have, I'm not the only one that has reported that. There are other people reporting it as well, but there are reports of England at some point in history, not in our history, but in our future, where England doesn't even exist. At some point in our future, it may not even be in our lifetime. I don't know when it is, but but the earth is shifting, so land is changing all the time.
So like I said, so if you get a message like that, you usually go live on Facebook then, or on your YouTube channel, or because like what else would they tell you just before we go? And I'm going to give you time to tell people where to find you and stuff. But like, what would they tell you that would be urgent for humanity to hear?
Well, things like our DNA is changing, that we are in an evolutionary period, that I think most of it is urgent within our lifetime to wake us up, so that our generation doesn't forget, so that the next generation doesn't forget. Because you were talking about the 3 generational spans where we seem to forget. So I think it's I think the most so, but with the urgent stuff, it's mostly things to do with the weather. And I remember actually I was told, not last year but the year before, that there were big changes coming. And I just I misunderstood it because I thought it was for me on a personal level.
Who could ever have fathomed that this was going to happen? Because I remember there's somebody on YouTube that I follow. I don't get the time now to listen, but he has a nightly call-in show with people from all over the world, and somebody from the military, or claimed to be. This would have been probably about 14 months ago. They were talking about this. Now, were they clear cut about what was coming? No, but they were telling that something huge that would change the world, that like, and telling like people would be at home, nobody be going to work. And yeah, it was scary for a couple of weeks, and then people moved on with life and forgot about it. So you know what, Carol, you've been an absolute delight to be here tonight. Thank you for your patience with all of our questions. We're trying to understand what you're sharing. I understand a lot of it, but I know a lot of people may not understand what the terminology is, or, you know, what's going on with that. But what I'd like to ask you is, please tell people where they can find you, your book, well, your books, because just because it's not on Amazon, I know you're still selling them, and your podcast yourself, all of that, please.
Thanks, Laurie. Yeah, it's been really lovely. I'd love to come back and do more with you. There's a lot more we could definitely go into.
Okay.
My website is thepleiadianchild.com, and I have a Starseed and Trailblazers weekend workshop coming up on the 27th and 28th of March, which is next weekend. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Awesome.
And I still have spaces available.
Okay. How do they register for that? Because I think I saw that on your website. It's pretty reasonable too. So
yeah, it's £88 sterling for the 2 days, which is really reasonable, I think. So it's £11 deposit and then £77 in total. So it's 88 in total, sorry. But it's I have the whole itinerary on my website, so people can
sign up on your website then, right, hon?
Yeah.
Okay, where do they find your podcast? Because we only got about a minute left. That's it.
Okay. My YouTube is Carol Noonan, which is NOONAN. And I have Facebook groups as well. I have the Great Awakening of Humanity 2020. Okay. And also the Cosmic Ascension Waves of Light Facebook group as well. Okay. But it's been really lovely to get together and do this with you this evening.
Well, thank you so much for being here and your patience with our questions. You've been an absolute delight, and I really appreciate you being here. I do want to remind people, I forgot to mention this last week. I'm going to be starting a new feature on this. It's going to be one time a month, but what I'm looking for is your personal stories or emails at theangelrock1508@gmail.com, sharing with me any experiences maybe you're trying to understand, question for spirit, any paranormal experiences, and I'd love to share them on air. If you want to be anonymous, that's fine. But again, we're going to try that if we get enough of those, but one time a month. Tomorrow night, I'll be back with my PIC who joined me tonight, and bestie Seraphine Hurley with Tripping the Void from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can find me on Facebook.com/The Angel Rock. And I have two groups on Facebook as well, Paranormal University for all things paranormal, and the Angel Rocker Tribe for all things sort of esoteric, spiritual, some of the things we talked about tonight. I send you all so much love and light wherever you may be. Have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. And again, thank you so much, Carol. Have a great time, a great evening. And thank you again.
Thank you, Lorilei.